Jack Carson, a seasoned trucker with a penchant for late-night hauls, was about to embark on a journey that would forever alter his perception of reality. His destination was a small, obscure town known as Shadow's End, nestled in a remote part of the mountains, shrouded in unsettling folklore and tales of the unexplained. The job seemed simple enough. Deliver a sealed, unmarked container to an address at the very edge of Shadow's End. The pay was unusually good, the kind that made Jack overlook his usual cautiousness about vague job details. As he set off under the cloak of night, the weather was calm, but there was a charge in the air, an unspoken tension that made his skin prickle. Jack chalked it up to the excitement of a new route and a hefty paycheck. Hours into the drive, Jack noticed something odd. His usually reliable radio was picking up strange interference, a mix of static and what sounded like whispering voices. No matter how he fiddled with the dials, the eerie whispers persisted, growing more intense as he drove further into the wilderness. The road to Shadow's End was long and winding, flanked by dense forests that seemed to absorb all light, casting deep shadows across the asphalt. Jack's headlights barely penetrated the darkness, creating an oppressive tunnel vision as he navigated the serpentine road. It was past midnight when Jack finally arrived at Shadow's End. The town was unnervingly quiet, its buildings old and weathered, with a lingering sense of abandonment. The address on the delivery order led him to an old warehouse at the edge of town, standing alone like a forgotten relic. As he approached the warehouse, his truck's headlights illuminated a figure standing in the road. Jack slammed on the brakes, heart racing. The figure was a woman, her appearance ghostly in the dim light, her eyes hollow with an unspoken sorrow. She didn't speak, only pointed towards the warehouse before vanishing into the night. Shaken, Jack drove to the warehouse, unease gnawing at him. The building was larger than it appeared from a distance, its walls covered in vines and age. The large delivery door was ajar, inviting him in. Inside, the warehouse was cavernous, with rows of abandoned shelves and a thick layer of dust covering everything. In the center, a loading area awaited Jack's delivery. As he unloaded the container, a chilling sensation washed over him, the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, the warehouse lights flickered and went out, plunging Jack into darkness. His heart pounded in his chest as he fumbled for his flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but the empty aisles and the silent container he had delivered. As he made his way back to his truck, a soft, childlike giggle echoed through the warehouse. Jack froze, the sound sending a shiver down his spine. It was coming from the direction of the container. Jack hurried to his truck, the feeling of urgency overwhelming. He climbed in, locking the doors, and started the engine, but the truck wouldn't move. It was as if an invisible force was holding it in place. He glanced in the rearview mirror and gasped. Standing behind his truck was a group of shadowy figures, their features indistinct, but their intent clear. They didn't want him to leave. Jack tried the radio for help, but all he got was static and those same unsettling whispers. He realized then that the stories about Shadow's End were more than just tales. They were warnings. In a desperate attempt, Jack decided to confront whatever was in the container. Armed with nothing but his flashlight and a crowbar, he stepped out of his truck and approached the container. His hands trembled as he pried it open. The container was empty, or so it seemed at first. But as he shone his flashlight inside, he saw it. A faint, spectral figure of a child, its eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The child spoke in a voice that was both eerie and sad. "You must leave now, before it's too late." Jack didn't need to be told twice. He rushed back to his truck, and to his relief, it started. He drove out of the warehouse, the shadowy figures parting to let him pass, their silent stares burning into his memory. As Jack left Shadow's End behind, the sun began to rise, casting light over the landscape that had been so menacing in the darkness. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had narrowly escaped something malevolent. The drive back was a blur, his mind reeling from the night's events. When he finally arrived home, the sun was high in the sky, and the normalcy of the day felt surreal. Jack never spoke of what happened in Shadow's End, but he knew he could never forget. The town and its secrets remained etched in his mind, a haunting reminder of the night he encountered the unknown. In the weeks that followed, Jack found himself unable to shake the memories of Shadow's End. The whispering voices, the spectral child, and the shadowy figures haunted his dreams, turning his nights into restless journeys through his own fears. Determined to find answers, Jack began researching the town. He discovered that Shadow's End was once a bustling mining community, but after a series of unexplained disappearances and accidents, it had become a ghost town, shrouded in rumors of curses and supernatural events. Jack's curiosity and his need for closure led him back to the road to Shadow's End. This time, he was prepared, armed with recording equipment and a determination to uncover the truth. As he approached the town, the familiar sense of dread returned, but he pressed on. He reached the warehouse again, its ominous presence more intimidating in the daylight. Inside, he set up his equipment, hoping to capture any evidence of the supernatural. As he waited, the atmosphere grew heavy, the silence oppressive. Then, the whispers returned, more coherent this time, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. "Leave, before the shadows return," they warned. Jack felt a cold breeze, and the temperature in the warehouse dropped suddenly. As night fell, the warehouse was filled with an unnatural darkness. Jack's equipment flickered, malfunctioning under an unseen force. Then, out of the shadows, the figures appeared again, their forms more defined. They were miners, he realized, their faces etched with sorrow and pain. The spectral child appeared once more, its presence bringing a calm to the chaos. "They can't leave. Trapped by the tragedy that befell us all," it said, its voice echoing around the warehouse. Jack understood then that these were the souls of the miners who had died in a catastrophic accident long ago, their spirits bound to the place of their untimely demise. Determined to help, Jack delved deeper into the town's history. He learned of a mining explosion that had been covered up, the lives lost deemed a necessary sacrifice for the town's prosperity. But the disaster had cursed the town, leading to its eventual abandonment. Jack found old records, names of the deceased, and personal items left behind in the town. He gathered them, bringing them to the warehouse as a gesture of acknowledgement and respect. That night, as he laid out the items, the atmosphere in the warehouse changed. The miners' spirits, recognizing their belongings, began to manifest more clearly, their whispers turning into words of gratitude. With the help of the spectral child, who Jack learned was the mine owner's son who had died trying to warn the miners, he conducted a makeshift ceremony to honor the miners and acknowledge their unjust deaths. As he spoke their names aloud, a light began to fill the warehouse, growing brighter with each name. The miners' spirits started to fade, their faces showing relief and peace as they were finally released from their earthly bonds. The spectral child smiled at Jack, a look of thanks in its glowing eyes, before it too disappeared, the light engulfing the warehouse in a blinding flash. When the light receded, Jack found himself alone in the warehouse, the oppressive atmosphere gone. The sun was rising, casting warm rays through the broken windows, illuminating the once dark space. Jack left the warehouse, feeling a weight lifted from his shoulders. As he drove away from Shadow's End, he saw the town in a new light. No longer a place of shadows and whispers, but a silent monument to the past. Back on the road, Jack carried with him not just the memory of Shadow's End, but a sense of purpose. He had faced the unknown, confronted the shadows of history, and in doing so, had freed the trapped souls of a forgotten tragedy. His experience at Shadow's End became a story he would occasionally share with fellow truckers, a reminder that sometimes the scariest roads lead to the most unexpected destinations. And though he continued his life on the road, Jack never forgot the night he spent in that ghostly town, the night he faced his fears and uncovered a hidden truth in the heart of the mountains. Sam Jennings, a trucker known for his long hauls and no-nonsense attitude, was about to face a journey unlike any other. He'd heard the stories of Highway 91, a stretch of road notorious for its unexplained disappearances and ghostly sightings. Most truckers avoided it, but Sam, driven by a mix of skepticism and bravado, decided to take the route. Sam's assignment was to transport a mysterious cargo from a remote warehouse in Nevada to a little-known research facility in Utah. The details of the cargo were classified and shrouded in secrecy. All Sam knew was that it was extremely valuable and needed to be delivered with utmost care. As Sam embarked on his journey, the sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the desert landscape. Highway 91 stretched before him, a ribbon of asphalt disappearing into the horizon. Sam felt a tinge of unease, but he shrugged it off as he tuned into his favorite radio station. The first few hours were uneventful, but as night fell, a dense fog rolled in, enveloping the highway. Sam slowed down, his visibility reduced to a few feet. The radio started to crackle, strange whispers weaving through the static. Deep into the night, Sam noticed something unsettling. The road seemed to be changing. Mile markers were missing, and the landscape looked unfamiliar. The GPS showed he was still on Highway 91, but it felt as if he had entered another world. Then, he saw it, a figure standing in the middle of the road. Slamming the brakes, Sam stopped just in time. It was a man, dressed in old-fashioned trucker attire, his face pale and eyes hollow. He pointed forward, then vanished into thin air. Shaken, Sam continued, his mind racing with questions. He heard a faint thumping from the trailer, like something was moving inside. Pulling over, Sam decided to check the cargo, against all protocols. Inside the trailer, the cargo was a set of unmarked, sealed crates. As Sam approached, he heard whispers, echoing from the crates themselves. A chill ran down his spine as he hurried back to the cab. Driving on, the fog grew thicker. Suddenly, in his rearview mirror, Sam saw a convoy of old trucks, their headlights piercing the fog. They were keeping pace with him, but when he tried to let them pass, they stayed right behind, their horns blaring in a chilling cacophony. Sam pushed his truck faster, trying to escape the ghostly convoy. As he glanced back, the trucks vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The night dragged on, and Sam came upon a small, decrepit town, seemingly abandoned. Desperate for rest, he stopped. The town was eerily silent, the buildings decaying. As he walked the desolate streets, he felt eyes watching him from the shadows. In the town square, he found a monument dedicated to lost truckers of Highway 91. His heart sank as he saw the name of the man he had seen on the road, etched into the stone. Returning to his truck, Sam found the trailer door open, the crates inside now uncovered, revealing machinery and devices he couldn't identify. A sudden, overwhelming fear gripped him as he realized the cargo was something far more sinister than he had imagined. He heard the whispers again, louder, more urgent. "Leave this place," they said. Sam didn't hesitate. He climbed into his truck and drove away from the town as fast as he could. Sam drove away from the ghostly town, his mind racing. The strange occurrences on Highway 91 were escalating, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. The whispers continued, growing more frantic, as if urging him to escape an unseen pursuer. As dawn approached, Sam noticed the landscape around him transforming. The desert gave way to a dense, mist-laden forest, a sight impossible in this region. The road twisted and turned, leading him deeper into the surreal woodland. In the daylight, the convoy of ghostly trucks reappeared, trailing him silently. Every time Sam looked in the mirror, their spectral forms loomed closer, only to disappear when he turned for a better look. Exhausted and desperate for human contact, Sam pulled over at a quaint diner that appeared out of the mist. The diner seemed stuck in time, its decor reminiscent of the 1950s. The patrons and staff too appeared from a bygone era, paying him no mind. After a meal that tasted unnervingly bland, Sam conversed with the waitress. Her eyes held a deep sadness as she warned him about the road. "Highway 91 doesn't like to let go," she whispered. Back on the road, Sam encountered a massive bridge spanning a chasm that seemed to plunge into infinity. As he crossed, the fog enveloped the truck, and the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. Halfway across, Sam saw figures on the bridge. People who seemed to be stuck in time, their expressions frozen in fear and despair. They were the lost souls of Highway 91, trapped in its endless loop. Emerging from the bridge, Sam found himself back in the desert, the forest nowhere in sight. It was then he realized that Highway 91 was a paradox, a place where different realities converged, trapped by the same unseen force that held the lost souls. Determined to break free, Sam focused on the whispers, trying to decipher their message. Amidst the cacophony, he heard a clear directive: find the heart of the road. Sam drove with a new purpose, searching for the heart of Highway 91. The road seemed to stretch endlessly, but he persisted. Finally, he came upon an ancient-looking road sign, its edges worn, marking a path leading off the highway. He followed the path, which led him to a dilapidated gas station. Inside, he found a map detailing the original layout of Highway 91, including a section that had been closed off for decades. The map revealed a forgotten detour, a path that might lead him out of the highway's grasp. Sam located the detour, an overgrown road barely visible. As he drove, the whispering voices faded, replaced by a deafening silence. The detour took him through landscapes that defied explanation, scenes from different times and places, all melding into one. Sam drove on, driven by the hope of escape. Finally, the road began to normalize, the bizarre landscapes giving way to familiar terrain. Sam emerged onto a recognizable highway, the sun shining brightly in the sky. He had left the haunting grasp of Highway 91. Stopping at a roadside rest area, Sam took a moment to collect his thoughts. The experiences on Highway 91 were beyond comprehension, a journey through a realm where time and reality held no sway. Sam continued his life as a trucker, but he was forever changed by his journey on Highway 91. He shared his story with fellow truckers, a tale that was met with skepticism and awe. But for Sam, the haunting of Highway 91 was more than just a story. It was a reminder of the mysteries that lurk on the open road, hidden in the spaces between destinations, waiting for the next lone traveler. Ethan Blake, a seasoned driver known for his late-night deliveries, received a job that stood out from the rest. His task was to transport a collection of rare antiques from a private collector in the city to a secluded mansion deep in the countryside. The job paid exceptionally well, but it came with a warning. The route was known for its strange occurrences, especially after sunset. As Ethan set out, the evening sky was a canvas of deep purples and oranges, signaling the coming of night. He was not one to be easily spooked, but the stories he'd heard about this particular road lingered in his mind. The route took him through winding country roads surrounded by dense forests. The deeper he drove into the wilderness, the more he felt a creeping sense of unease. The trees seemed to lean towards the road, their branches like gnarled fingers against the darkening sky. As night fell, a thick fog began to envelop the road, reducing visibility to mere feet. Ethan slowed down, the headlights of his vehicle barely piercing the dense mist. It was then that he noticed something peculiar. The road seemed unnaturally smooth, the turns and bends too perfect, as if leading him somewhere with intent. Ethan's journey took a turn for the bizarre when he spotted a figure by the roadside. A woman, dressed in an old-fashioned gown, her face obscured by a veil, was standing in the fog, her thumb outstretched. Despite his better judgment, Ethan stopped. The woman approached, her movements eerily graceful, and whispered a single word. North, before vanishing into the mist. Shaken, Ethan continued driving, but now he could hear it, whispers, echoing through the fog, unintelligible but unmistakably human. The sound seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, enveloping his vehicle in a chorus of hushed voices. As the night deepened, the road took on a surreal quality. Shadows moved just beyond the reach of the headlights, and shapes seemed to flit between the trees. Ethan's sense of reality began to warp. Time felt dilated, the road endless. Ethan's journey led him to an abandoned village, the buildings decrepit and overgrown. He stopped, curiosity getting the better of him. As he explored, he felt eyes watching him from the shadows, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. In the center of the village stood an old well. As Ethan approached, the whispers became a voice, clear and resonant, speaking a name he recognized, the collector who had sent him on this journey. Ethan returned to his vehicle, unsettled by the revelations of the well. He realized the antiques he was transporting were more than mere objects. They were connected to the village and the road in ways he couldn't comprehend. Driving away from the village, Ethan encountered a phantom carriage, led by horses that seemed made of smoke and shadow. The carriage raced alongside him, its driver a skeletal figure cloaked in black, its gaze fixed on Ethan. In a moment of terror, Ethan swerved, barely avoiding a collision. The carriage vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving only a lingering chill in the air. Ethan's path led him to a bridge spanning a deep chasm. As he crossed, the fog cleared, revealing a starless sky above and an abyss below. The whispers turned to screams, echoing up from the depths. Halfway across, Ethan's vehicle stalled. He was stranded on the bridge, the darkness pressing in from all sides. The screams grew louder, more desperate, as if something was climbing up from the abyss. Panicked, Ethan attempted to restart his vehicle, but it was futile. The screams were now accompanied by faces, ghostly and tormented, emerging from the darkness. Ethan realized they were the souls of those lost on this cursed road. In a last-ditch effort, Ethan left his vehicle, intending to cross the bridge on foot. But as he stepped out, the bridge began to crumble, the abyss reaching up to claim him. Ethan awoke at the edge of the bridge, his vehicle intact, the road behind him normal. The sun was rising, casting light on the once nightmarish landscape. He realized that the road had tested him, showing him the horrors of the past. Shaken but determined, Ethan continued his journey. The road now seemed less menacing in the light of day, but the memory of the night's terrors lingered. He couldn't shake the feeling that the road was alive, aware of his presence, and that his ordeal might not be over. Hours later, Ethan arrived at his destination, a grand, secluded mansion, its architecture a blend of Gothic and Victorian styles. The mansion, shrouded in an aura of mystery, stood in stark contrast to the surrounding wilderness. As he unloaded the antiques, Ethan was greeted by the mansion's caretaker, an elderly man with a solemn demeanor. He thanked Ethan for his service, but warned him to leave before nightfall. "This place," he said, "has a way of ensnaring the unwary." Curious, Ethan asked the caretaker about the mansion and its history. The caretaker, hesitating at first, shared a tale of tragedy and loss. The mansion's owner, consumed by grief over the untimely death of his wife, had delved into the occult, seeking to breach the veil between life and death. As Ethan explored the mansion's grounds, he felt a growing sense of unease. The air was thick with the echoes of past sorrows, and the shadows seemed to move of their own accord. The whispers returned, now mixed with a woman's mournful sobbing. Intrigued and unsettled, Ethan stumbled upon a hidden chamber beneath the mansion. The chamber was filled with arcane symbols and old tomes, the air heavy with the scent of incense and decay. In the center of the chamber stood a mirror, its surface swirling with a ghostly mist. As Ethan peered into it, he saw not his reflection, but a series of fleeting images. The mansion's owner, his dead wife, and scenes of rituals and madness. Suddenly, the mirror's surface rippled, and a ghostly figure emerged. It was the owner's wife, her expression one of deep sorrow and rage. She spoke of her husband's betrayal, how his obsession had condemned her soul to an eternity of torment. The ghostly figure blamed Ethan for bringing the antiques, which she revealed were artifacts tied to the rituals that had bound her. She warned him that her husband's spirit, corrupted by dark forces, still lingered in the mansion, seeking to complete his unholy work. Ethan realized he had to leave the mansion before nightfall. He hurried back to his vehicle, the whispers and sobs following him. As he drove away, he saw the ghostly figure of the wife in the rearview mirror, her eyes filled with a plea for release. Ethan's drive back was a race against time. The road seemed to stretch and contort, trying to trap him as night approached. He pushed his vehicle to its limits, the memories of the previous night's horrors fueling his urgency. As darkness fell, the road transformed again. This time, Ethan faced a torrential storm, the rain and wind battering his vehicle. Phantom shapes darted through the storm, their wails merging with the howling wind. Near exhaustion, Ethan reached the bridge once more. This time he crossed without incident, the abyss below silent and still. It seemed as though the road had accepted him, or perhaps it had no more trials to offer. Ethan emerged from the haunted road as dawn broke, the world around him returning to normal. He felt a profound sense of relief, but also a deep, unshakable sadness for the trapped souls he had encountered. Back in the city, Ethan couldn't escape the memories of his journey. He knew he had witnessed something extraordinary, a glimpse into a world beyond understanding. He also knew that he couldn't share his experience. It was a burden he would have to carry alone.